how do they sell this? Give your rights up, Al-Qaeda's going to hit you, but then Al-Qaeda are freedom fighters.
Well, of course, the contradiction, it couldn't be more gaping, and couldn't be, the hypocrisy, the double standard couldn't be more obvious. On the one hand, Al-Qaeda is if you're in Pakistan or Waziristan or someplace, if you have Al-Qaeda passing by the door, they can come and bomb you and destroy your house too in the process. But somehow in Libya, it's a different brand of Al-Qaeda, I guess, and that they become freedom fighters. This is simply the bankruptcy of the foreign policy that we've had for the past 10 or 12 years. But now they've twisted it and turned it so many times that it's I think becoming obvious to a lot of people around the world. But the point is, this entire model has broken down in Syria, right? It's failing. Now, some point during the course of this year, London and Washington will be confronted with the fact, well, your Syrian destabilization has been a complete failure, and your attack on Iran, your encirclement of Iran, is also therefore failing. What do you do? If they decide to go to a confrontation, that's where the stuff with Russia comes in, and that's really what Obama is trying to get. He's saying, give me until November, December before you do your countermeasures. The idea then being that if, in July or August or September, right, the prime military season and the prime bombing season, if we get a confrontation between the U.S. and Russia over some massive issue in the Middle East, the U.S. blackmail potential will be greater if the Russian countermeasures have not been done. The Russians want to put these missiles in the Kaliningrad area and also on the Russian coast of the Black Sea, right, opposite the Balkans, opposite Turkey. So this is very, very serious and much too important to be left in. And
Russian troops are being injected into Syria on record now. I mean, this is disastrous. Briefly, what do you make of Corzine openly being caught stealing the money, which we already knew, not getting in trouble, Europe melting down, austerity, everything you talked about in the Obama deception coming true? What's the next phase of this?
Well, of course, what it shows is the corruption of the Democratic Party, right? We've got this wonderful country of ours where we've got reactionary Republicans on the one side, but then the alternative to that becomes Wall Street Democrats. And among the Wall Street Democrats, Corzine is one of the champions, right? He was a senator from New Jersey.
Governor.
He got bored with that. He decided to become governor of New Jersey. And then he was voted out because he was not a good governor. Again, how can you be when you've got, your main focus is how to help Wall Street? So I think there's he's now been caught with his hand in the till. Right, this is I guess embezzlement, and a pretty big bezel involved at that. Whether he's above the law, well, I guess we're soon going to find out, right? What about Attorney General Eric Holder? Are you going to enforce the law against the finance oligarch, or did they all get off? Right? Sometimes they do.
Meanwhile, Holder's shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. It's just a bunch of crooks.
Yes, and of course, at that point, well. At that point, the answer would have to be political.
But Webster, undoubtedly saying they'll arrest citizens, take over infrastructure. I mean, they really are trying to start basically cooling. The public's out buying guns, but they're now taking out a deep freeze and warming up all these police state grids. I certainly hope the oligarchs don't think they're going to use some type of martial law here. Even with a false flag, it's not going to work.
No, and I guess that gets us to Obama's executive order. Now, the executive order, obviously he wanted to do this surreptitiously, right? He wanted to do a stealth operation. These are these Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock, Washington, D.C., the rush hour is on, and then they reveal these things. So he's mobilizing what has always been there, right, since 1950, the Defense Production Act.
Stay there.
The question is, why now?
Yeah, we're going to come back and answer that question, why now, with Webster Tarpley. By the way, plug one more time when we come back, the intriguing debate you're going to have with some little nasty globalist minions on the other side. Boy, I wish I could be there for that. Stay with us. Webster Tarpley's our guest. Listen, we're going to get into Obama and the executive order here with Tarpley, but he was talking to me during the break, and I was like, hey, I need to send a cameraman up to D.C. to the International Spy Museum next Monday when you're going to debate David Frum and Jonathan Kay and a bunch of other people. And he said, oh, sorry, they're not letting anybody else tape. It's just them. So it's a TV production. And it's going to be Tarpley with like 5 people against him, with David Frum, the neocon from the White House, moderating. I mean, that would be like having... That would be like, you know, having the Washington Redskins coach moderating as a referee in the Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington Redskins sudden death overtime in Super Bowl 87, you know, in the future. I mean, it is total conflict of interest. So I'll say this: it's $15 to get in. Neocons only watch Fox News, so they don't even know this event's coming up. But it's 9/11, false flags, and black ops, an evening of debate with David Frum, Jonathan Kay, and Webster Tarpley. So it's $15. Members of the inner circle, I guess that means if you're members to it, $12. I want patriots to get in there, and I want you guys, if you know what to do, get video of this. Don't, because what's going to happen is, I'm going to guess, they're doing a TV production for History Channel or Discovery or something. And they're going to cut it up, Webster, where you look like you've been lobotomized by a monkey with a jackhammer.
I assume now if maybe you want to contact them directly and ask about having a camera, because that part I didn't really look into.
Hey, we'll just turn loose the info warriors. They'll get cameras in. You know, they've got to hide it where they hide the watch in Pulp Fiction. They're going to get them in. Anyways, so, but you're going to go in there with these piranhas, huh?
Yeah, look, I think it's important because, I mean, what are the issues, right? I mean, there's this broad issue of... No,
but say the Latin thing, because it's, you know, any publicity is good publicity, and people attack me. I love it. And teach me that Latin.
This is a Roman proverb, right? So it's in Latin, and it goes like this. Bona fama, good fame. Mala fama, bad fame. Semper fama, right? Semper is always fame, fama. So bona fama, mala fama, semper fama. Good fame, bad fame, it's all the same. It's all fame, and we'll take it. On Broadway, we say, a knock is a boost. If you attack me, it means that I'm somehow important enough to be worthy of attack, right? There's no such thing as bad publicity, and so forth, right?
No, all of my enemies with jealousy and operatives and all of them, they've only helped us. Just like the Bible says, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So keep it coming. I love it.
And of course, you have to go into the blood and sand of the arena, right? Unfortunately, this is the arena in which the battle of ideas has to take place. So when you have the opportunity, you have to do it.
But it's important to point out it's rigged. They wouldn't have to have 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and they run the rules. The only way they're letting you in the arena is with both hands tied behind your back, and you'll still, you know, absolutely clean the floor with them, Webster.
Yeah, well, you have to be ready for that. That's for sure.
I would just ask him, hey, how come 2 passports got found that day? It's not just that they survived, they were found. And then I'd go, oh, why were they trained at U.S. military bases? Newsweek, why was Mayor Willie Brown warned not to fly? San Francisco Chronicle, why was U.S. troops massing around Tajikistan and Uzbekistan in the month before 9/11 and Bush signed the launch order to attack the day before? Source Associated Press, Newsweek. Oh, you want some more?
My idea would be that not to go so much into these technical details, but rather the question of the invisible government, the rogue network, what that has meant for the United States, why that is a threat to everybody's future, why it's real, right? It's empirical.
Yeah, because it's going to be a bunch of spies there from all different governments in the meeting.
I hope so.
Of course there will be. Stay there, Webster. I want to get into the executive order. That's right. Only got 5 minutes left with Tarpley. And then coming up, we're going to have Gerald Celente on and more. Big transmission lined up. If you're going to be listening to the rebroadcast as well later. But we're live right now. Webster, finishing up here. I just imagine you in that arena with those piranhas. But again, I'm pleased that they have to have it all rigged. That's good. It shows their weakness. It still won't be enough, even though they're delusional, thank God. So we're beating them so badly right now. So let's let that continue. Webster, getting into the executive orders, as you said, they're thawing out things that were meant for during a nuclear war when Congress has all been killed. But Obama's saying for any reason, including threats, peacetime martial law is what all the constitutional scholars are calling it. they're scared, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the big question, again, is the ominous thing is why now? Why do this now? The Defense Production Act has been there since 1950. It's a product of the Korean War. I think many of these provisions could be used in a very positive way. We could use them to get out of the current depression. But this is not what Obama has in mind. He's sort of pulling out the Defense Production Act, and he's updating it in the following way. The Defense Production Act up to now, the executive orders that have been issued under Clinton and a couple of others, make FEMA the lead agency in coordinating this emergency economic and maybe political rule, but certainly economic. In other words, the war mobilization, war preparedness of the entire U.S. economy was normally then going to be under FEMA, except FEMA has now been included in the Homeland Security Department. So this means that the head of FEMA is no longer going to be the czar, but it's going to be Napolitano, right? Secretary of Homeland Security. And, of course, her track record of incompetence, malfeasance, nonfeasance, insolence, impudence.
Well, I mean, isn't Mr. Napolitano just a puppet?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you've got to look at, at who, and exactly all the influences that would converge on her. That's one side. The other side is that the notion of national defense has been broadened in the following way. There was a law called the Stafford Law, which has to do with natural emergencies, earthquakes, hurricanes, forest fires, things like this. That has all been incorporated in. So those are the two big sort of formalistic changes. That FEMA is no longer the lead agency. They don't chair the Homeland Security panel or whatever it is. There's a whole interagency group that they've created. Generally, it's going to be the lead agency is Homeland Security, and the definition is broadened to include all of these so-called natural disasters. But now, what is he really looking towards? Well, one could be the obvious, right? Iran, right? Anything with oil, anything with the Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf, that could be what he has in mind. In other words, they want to be ready for a confrontation, and that seems to be where at least some forces are pushing. Another question would be the short-term collapse of the dollar or the euro and the dollar, some kind of catastrophic dollar panic, a rush to the exits to dump all the dollars in the world. That could make it very hard to get oil because obviously one of the things that's included in this executive order is stockpiling. You can create, stockpiles of all kinds.
What do you make of the NDAA, though, and the Communist Chinese using that as their own secret arrest model? I mean, this is getting really crazy.
Yeah, and again, these things are now adding up, right? Because you've got this NDAA with the, Guantanamo forever with torture.
They're saying they'll spy without warrants now. Why? We only got 30 seconds left. Why is there a coming out of the closet right now?
It can be war with Iran. It can be the depression. It can be that they're looking forward to riots. And this is generally Weimarization. But this is what happened in Germany, 1931-32.
Yeah, get out of the depression, or the next move is dictatorship. Webster, we got to have you out in the next few weeks again. Things are moving so quickly. Tarpley.net, our site's Infowars.com. Thank you so much, Tarpley. Good luck at that debate. Everybody should buy tickets and be